a deal that paved the way for American ownership of TikTok's U.S. operations. Now, with trade tensions on the rise once again, President Trump and President Xi are due to meet at the end of the month in South Korea. William Lee is Executive Director and Chief Economist at the Milken Institute. He joins me live from Los Angeles for more on this. William, thanks very much for your time. What's your take on why trade tensions are rising again?
It seems as though every time the U.S. makes a deal with China, we come away with the sense of there's a framework or there's some sort of initial agreement and there's a meeting of minds. But it seems that the meeting of minds is very, very different from the perception of the Chinese versus the Americans. The Americans thought they had a supply of rare earths coming, and the Chinese said, oh, no. You may have TikTok, which we will use to addict even more of your teenagers, but as far as the critical supplies that feed into your new tech and artificial intelligence technologies, we still want to control that, and we want to maintain our monopoly control over those elements, rare earth elements, and that I think is something the United States really cannot stand for, and it really sets them back because they really thought they made progress in all of the rounds of negotiations so far.
So is it just a misunderstanding? You make it almost sound like it's misunderstandings or they're misreading the room, but it must be more thought or more sort of strategy involved in this, isn't there?
I think it's a very clear strategy on the part of China to maintain its monopoly control over the key inputs that go into these new technologies and these magnets that are so vital for electric motors and almost every piece of equipment we make these days. And at the same time, the United States says we also have leverage because we control a lot of the chips and technologies and software that's vital for the production of AI technologies. And I think the positive aspects would be that complementary kind of trade between these two giants would do the world a lot of good because it would advance the field of AI, produce the productivity enhancing developments that we're all looking for. But instead, China is really trying to grasp onto its lead so far in AI. It perceives itself as setting the standards, and it wants the world to adopt Chinese standards. And that's the one thing that Jensen Huang, the head of NVIDIA, who's producing these advanced chips, has warned us about, that we just cannot lose the fight of allowing American standards to be the standard that the world adopts, because that will be a critical part of what the United States requires in order to maintain its lead.
And just very briefly, the Trump-Xi meeting scheduled in South Korea later this month, you think it'll still go ahead?
The political optics of that meeting seem to be important for both sides. President Trump wants to show all Americans that he has good relationships with the major leaders. President Xi, I think, wants to show that the Americans are coming on their knees and begging for something. So they need to both have a meeting, both for different purposes, though, for the domestic audiences.
William, thanks very much for your thoughts. William Lee there from the Milken Institute.